Welcome to Scott Stadium. Chris Graham and Scott German, and we are here reporting live as Virginia wins 31-21. And Scott, for the first time, I think ever, and I'm sure this is ever, we can say about a Virginia football team heading into November, first place in the Coastal Division.
Absolutely, first place, and deservingly so. They're not backing into first place. They're earning, and it's an impressive football team.
Virginia led this one 17-14 at halftime to the 31-14 lead to start the fourth quarter. North Carolina makes it interesting midway through the fourth with a late touchdown, but Virginia really never challenged in this one. Final stats, the Hoos with 425 yards of offense to 337 for North Carolina. Bryce Perkins, an impressive day, both throwing and running the ball. 217 yards, 3 touchdowns, a 163.4 passer rating, 18 of 27 on the day for Perkins throwing the ball, and then 21 carries, 112 yards for Virginia running the ball. And so he had his hands on the ball on 48 of Virginia's 71 snaps. And what an impressive game for Perkins. Started off early on that first drive, accounting for 75 of the 80 yards on that first scoring drive.
Yeah, he set the tone early, and that's probably one of the keys to the game is put the hammer down early. In my opinion, this was Bryce's best game at UVA.
I would say as well, and Olave Zaccheaus 10 catches for 108 yards. And Zaccheaus becomes UVA's all-time leading receiver with, I think it was his 8th catch actually broke that record. And so Zaccheaus last season, 85 catches, back on pace this season. He's among the ACC leaders this season. And so Virginia throwing the ball well, running the ball well, and playing good defense. Carolina 337 for offense, but 92 on that drive in the fourth quarter in a situation where the game was already pretty much decided at that stage. And so another impressive performance for this UVA defense as well.
Yeah, and Chris, if you look at the stats, very efficient. Third down conversion, 6 of 13. Very efficient at the play clock, which we'll talk a little bit later on. In North Carolina, not so much.
Right.
Usually they're used to their time management. It's a total. This was not a game that UVA played their C game.
Right.
Today, I would grade this as a good, solid B, maybe a B+ game.
Yeah, but we talked about this before the game. This North Carolina team, even though only 1-5 coming into this one, had played well the last 2 weeks. Had a touchdown lead at Syracuse last week, lost in overtime. Had the lead and really had the game against Virginia Tech 2 weeks ago. Should have won that game, lost it in the last 19 seconds. And so even though that team only had 1 win coming in, had been playing a lot better of late. And again, it's not like Virginia blew the doors off of North Carolina today, but Virginia controlled from the outset, and really, to me, the outcome was never in doubt.
No, that's right. 31-21, Carolina had to score late to make it that. No, they were in control the whole game. And this is, you can look at the record. Carolina came in 1-5, going nowhere, probably going to lose their head coach at the end of the season. Deservedly so. But they played well. They lost to Syracuse last week in overtime. Syracuse was just a few plays away from beating Clemson.
Yes.
So, a rival, this meant everything for Carolina to come in here and play well. But I never really thought that this game was in doubt.
One thing that Virginia had to do defensively, and they did a good job of in the second half. In the first half, North Carolina finally figured out in the second quarter a way to attack Virginia defensively. And what Carolina was doing well in that second quarter defensively was not changing personnel. And when you don't change personnel, that means the defense can't change personnel either. And they would snap the ball basically when it was set, maybe a second or two after the ball was set. And so Virginia couldn't get subs in the game. They couldn't really get play calls. Virginia very confused defensively. Second half, Carolina comes out. Of course, hey, that's worked in the first half. You do something that works, and you do it again, and you do it often. But in the second half, Virginia really had that figured out. Great Kelly popping up and Bronco Mendenhall and the halftime locker room figuring out what they needed to do to forestall that lot of attack from North Carolina.
Yeah, and this is something that we've seen throughout this surge in this season. Adjustments. At halftime, we were having trouble figuring out that hurry-up offense in Carolina. We talked about what kind of adjustments Coach Mendenhall would make at halftime. And that's the key to the game. The defensive adjustments that he did to slow down that Carolina offense a little bit in the second half. That's just a very encouraging sign that we can make adjustments in midstream.
What was really interesting too today, we talked about Bryce Perkins' game. Virginia runs for 217, passes for 217, runs for 208 in this game. And what you saw out of the offense today was the entire playbook. And you even saw it early. There was a play early where a fake reverse to Lamine Zacchaeus, where the option for him, if he decided to hand the ball off on the reverse, would have been to Joe Reed. You saw those kind of plays. You saw Bryce Perkins, the run-pass option. We saw him throw the ball out of that run-pass option a couple of times. We saw Perkins run a wildcat play, a traditional just simply snap the ball to the quarterback and run a sweep play. That's a wildcat play. With your quarterback, we can do that. Of course, you saw him in the traditional option, the read option. Jordan Ellis running the ball up the middle. You saw him drop back and pass. I mean, you saw everything today out of the Virginia offense. And when you see everything out of the Virginia offense, you're seeing the West Coast offense, the read option. You're seeing traditional eye offense, a pistol offense. It's a lot for a defensive coordinator to have to plan for.
And it's also a lot to ask your quarterback. And Bryce is he has stepped up his game.
And he's in his first year here.
He's a freshman.
Yeah.
All
intents and purposes, yeah.
And he has just become a very poised quarterback. He is becoming an elite quarterback in this league.
He really is. These are the kind of the numbers today: 217 passing, 112 rushing, 3 touchdowns passing, 1 touchdown rushing. Those are the kind of things you see out of guys who were Heisman candidates eventually. Question from Rod Mullins here. Let's go ahead and answer. Who would have thought the last weekend of October, UVA being first place in the division, bowl eligible? Broncos said this was a work in progress. It takes some time to get everyone to buy into the new system. We're not Alabama, but we're getting there, as Bronco would say. I said this on the live blog we do during the game on Augusta Free Press. What I thought was interesting was on the way up to the game today, I took a walk through the parking lot, and I heard some fans tailgating say, wow, you win today, and we're bowl eligible. And the first thought that popped in my head was, last year bowl eligible was important. Last year 6 wins was important. Today, this is the 6 wins for this Virginia team. If Virginia is only bowl eligible this year, and I don't even just mean 6 wins. If this team's 8 or 9 wins and only bowl eligible, it'll be a disappointment. This team is first place in the Coastal Division. It's not a fluke. This team has Charlotte in its sights. And at this stage, if they're not playing in Charlotte on December 1st, it's a disappointment.
But I can see both sides of it. Putting my fan hat on. Before the season, 6 wins was probably a realistic goal.
I thought 5 was what we would get, yeah.
And maybe not much more, not more than that.
Yeah.
But now, as we continue to raise the bar, yeah. At this point in the season, 6 wins is going to, which would mean we have to lose the rest of our game. This team is. I don't really know if you can measure it ahead of the schedule that Coach Mendenhall wanted, but I think in terms of we are ahead of the curve as far as what this team believes it can accomplish.
I think we're way ahead of schedule. Way ahead of schedule. I was talking about this with a writer here well before the game, as you do when you get to sit in these environments. And we've talked about this guy on our podcast. This is akin to what we saw to Tony Bennett in his resurgence of Virginia basketball. In year 3, Tony took a team that was still largely Dave Lato recruits, a few of his recruits sprinkled in, and took that team and somehow got that team to the NCAA tournament. And you think back now that we're in year 10 of Tony, yet that year 3 team had no top 100 recruits. I mean, it was spit tape. And everything else you can to get 20-some wins, 22, 23 wins out of that team. We're here with Bronco. Now, most of these guys are his recruits. There's still a couple of holdovers from the Mike Lennon era, but it's largely Bronco guys now. They're young guys, freshmen, sophomores, a couple of juniors who were that first class that stayed around. But these guys aren't supposed to be playing this good right now, but they are, and so you say ahead of schedule, and then I say again, I mean, whatever the expectations were at the beginning of the season, heck, even what the expectations were before we beat Miami here 2 weeks ago. I think going into that night, we still had a lot of questions about this team. Now the expectations are, hey, you can beat Miami, you can beat Duke on the road last week, you can win this game today the way you did. I mean, the sky's the limit for this program.
Yeah, and it's your confidence. It's a stepping stone type. You win a game against a good Miami team. You go down to Duke. We talked about having to create your own atmosphere down there, how you create your own intensity. I thought they did a great job down there in doing that.
I thought that win was more impressive than the Miami win because that's a really good Duke team.
And it's a hard environment to play in for all the wrong reasons.
For all the wrong reasons, right.
But today, you come in here, you play a team like Carolina, a wounded animal. They have nothing.
They have nothing to lose. Yeah.
This was their Super Bowl.
Right.
And so probably will next week when they play Duke or when they play NC State again. So you're going to get their best shot.
Yeah.
And we took their best shot and won impressively. And it is really an encouraging event happening. We're seeing Coach Mendenhall do what we got to witness firsthand that Coach Bennett did with the basketball program, and even going back further, Coach Connor did with the baseball program.
Right.
Very similar.
Right. And
growth.
Similar growth, and it's a difficult thing to build a football program even more so than basketball because there's 85 scholarships. Your two deep is 44 guys, and you've got to have depth on the offensive line even outside of just 10 guys really. And last year you saw the issues with lack of depth. That team last year played above its head football as well, but they ran out of steam because of injuries. This year's team's got more depth, and we haven't even talked about Bronco still in year 3. He still hadn't recruited until this class coming in next year. Any 4-star recruits, he's got 5 4-stars already committed for next year. And by God, they better not play because at this stage, let those guys sit for a year and get even better when they're redshirt freshmen. And you've got the talent on the field right now. You've got the talent in the locker room right now. But we're getting ahead of ourselves there. We got Pittsburgh next. Chris Lambie-Graham has a question. Thoughts on Pittsburgh? It's early. Haven't thought about Pittsburgh very much. Now, Pittsburgh is a team like North Carolina, Jekyll and Hyde. They played well. They played very poorly. Virginia will be favored going into that game. We know that much. I mean, they played well. They should have beaten Notre Dame at Notre Dame last week, or well, I guess it was 2 weeks ago. Should have won that game. Also got blown out by a Penn State team that's sort of average in the Big Ten this year. So, we don't know what Pitt team will get, but we know this going in. Virginia's in first place in the Coastal, and they'll be favored to beat Pitt here at home on Friday night in what we hope will be a raucous environment here in Scott Stadium.
Yeah, and maybe find out a little more about Pittsburgh. They should be about ready to kick off at home in Heinz Field against Duke.
Yeah, that's right.
So we'll kind of get a little bit better gauge of where the Panthers are. But they've been an up and down team. They look great one week, play like the Steelers one week, play like the Penguins the next.
There you go.
So, again, it's an ACC game. And even on paper, we talked about stringing together wins. I'm sure we're going to be a solid favorite, but it's still an ACC game, and we're going to get their best shot, and hopefully we'll have a great crowd, a lively crowd, and a
national TV audience. It's a Friday night ESPN game.
The last time we played a Friday night ESPN game, we did pretty well.
And so that's coming up next Friday night at 7:30. Now, of course, from Scott and I, we'll get together this week. We'll do a podcast. We'll break down that UVA Pitt game. But we have a lot to get through with this one today. Look for my game recap, Inside the Numbers column, and more on Augusta Free Press. And I think we'll go ahead and sign off for today. It's been a fun day here at Scott Stadium. Final score, UVA 31, North Carolina 21. Again, your Wahoos are in first place in the ACC Coastal. For Scott German, I'm Chris Graham signing off. Wahoo Wah.